snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So today I'm going to be doing a book review, and this will probably be the last review that I do in this room for a little while, because at the weekend I'm going home for the Easter holidays and I will see my bookshelves again and it will all be absolutely wonderful, so I'm really excited about that. But for now, let us get on with the review. So the book that I'm going to be reviewing is Words of Radiance, which is by Brandon Sanderson.
Now, I don't know if I'll be able to hold this up the whole time I'm talking because it is pretty heavy, but we'll see how I go.
So, for starters, this is the second book in the Stormlight Archive, which is by Brandon Sanderson. The first one is Way of Kings. I have done a review of Way of Kings. I will put a link here so that you guys can go and watch that one if you haven't. This will be non-spoiler as well, so don't worry about that. So, I honestly don't know where to begin with this book because it is such a huge mountain of a book. And it's over 1,000 pages again. It's 1,087 I think, and I just really loved it. I gave it 5 stars and it was amazing. So let's get into it. I'll begin by saying that I absolutely loved this book the entire time I was reading it. I thought it was amazing and I was just really in awe of the writing. I absolutely love Brandon Sanderson's writing. I think he's got real skill at building everything together and interweaving everything beautifully. So that was definitely a high point. I do believe that the amount of pages is perfectly justified, because even though it's a giant book and there are going to be 10 in the series, I really think that there's enough stuff and enough substance in this world that he's creating which will spread it out across the 10 books, and it won't be like stretching the story at all, because it just sounds so fantastic and so beautifully written that I am just absolutely loving it. So once again, it is set in the world of Roshar. There is a map of Roshar and it is wonderful. As always, the illustrations in these books are just beautiful. There's another really beautiful illustration there. So that is definitely one thing I would love to mention, is that the illustrations are just stunningly beautiful the whole way through. I cannot fault them. I think that they really enhance the story and just make it so much more magical to read. So in this story, it is again told from multiple points of view, and the main characters in this story are Shallan and Kaladin, such as they were in Way of Kings. They're kind of the main two in that one as well, but Way of Kings had a few more major characters, whereas this one kind of focuses a lot more on those two characters as opposed to the whole plot, and it's all kind of seen from their point of view. I really enjoyed that because each of those characters has something special about them, something that's making them far more interesting in this book than they were in the first one, because a lot of stuff is developing, things are kind of expanding, and just their ideas and the way that they think and the things that they can do just are growing throughout this entire book, and it's really captivating to watch that and just be part of that. So there are characters from Way of Kings within this, but some of them do unfortunately die and other characters are new, and we meet new characters along the way that we didn't meet in Way of Kings, but they've just popped into our story. Once again, the book is divided into 5 main sections, and then there's also 4 sections of interludes. The 5 main sections are basically our main plot, which focuses on Shallan and Kaladin and all of the people from Alethka and just on the Shattered Plains generally. The interlude sections are essentially extras and tidbits to give context to the rest of the world. It means that we can see what is going on in the rest of the world, and we see it from different characters' point of view. Some of those characters get a page or two to just give us a little snippet of what is happening where they are, and other characters will have a large amount of writing and almost as many pages as a regular chapter to give us a kind of idea of what's going on in their part of the world. One of the characters who I particularly liked was Eshoni. I thought that she was a really interesting character because she gave us a whole new perspective on the Parshmen, and we really didn't see that perspective in Way of Kings. So seeing that side of them was really interesting, and it definitely provoked a lot of emotion from me because I didn't really know what to expect, but when I kind of got there and saw it all, I was very sympathetic and then angry, and
so many emotions. This book just made me feel so emotional up and down.
Some of the other characters who are included in the interludes include Yim, Risen, Talon, Lift and Zeth, who was in book 1, Way of Kings. he is quite a major part in this book as well. He's quite a big focus, so it was definitely interesting to see his chapter, because that kind of gave you a whole new perspective on what he was feeling about the situation he's put in, because previously we didn't really know too much about him and what he feels in response to what his masters make him do. But in this book we kind of see a little bit more into what he thinks and how he's thinking and what he's been told about himself and what he believes. So all of that was really interesting. Lan is another character, and then also the final character in the Interludes is Taravangian. And I actually really enjoyed the section that was about Taravangian, because, to be honest, I didn't really understand some parts of the plot until I read his section, because there's a lot of stuff that is going on kind of outside of the Shattered Plains that gets hinted at in book 1 and the start of book 2. We can kind of form a little bit of an idea about why it's happening, but we really don't know, and we don't really know who's behind it all. And when we read his chapter, we can definitely kind of find out some answers about it and why it's happening and who's in control, and that's definitely a real eye-opener, and it makes me very, very happy when all of the strings of a story are kind of coming together into one, and that's what happens. So that was definitely a really good thing. So I really enjoyed the inclusion of the Interludes, because I think without them we really, really wouldn't understand completely about what is going on in the rest of the world, and it makes a really good kind of way of bringing in other characters that we perhaps wouldn't have otherwise seen, and sort of setting them up for the next book. I kind of get the impression that if someone appears in the Interludes, they're probably going to come up again in a later book, and that makes me really interested, because some of them have very little writing, as I say, but they're really interesting characters and really quirky, and just the culture that they live by is so different to that of the people on the Shattered Plains that I just really want to dive into their culture as well, find it all out and just be amazed. So yes. One of the other things that happens in Words of Radiance is that we do again see quite a lot of stuff from the past of the main characters. We do jump back in time to when Shallan was younger. In book 1 it's mostly referencing what happened to Kaladin whilst he was younger, whereas in book 2 it is a lot of referencing back into Shallan's past, and we see a lot more about her, and we find out a lot more about her personality and why she is the way she is, why she believes what she does, and so on. I thought that that was a really lovely inclusion, and it definitely gave me a lot more of a backstory to her and made her a lot more believable and exciting as a character, and made me sympathise with her a lot as well. Another of the aspects that I really, really enjoyed in Words of Radiance was that the spren come into it in a big way. Patton and Syl, they just have their own personalities, and they're really fun, really quirky, and really interesting. They kind of know so much more than we do about everything, but they have a kind of block on their minds, so they can't really tell us anything about what's going on until something sparks a memory from them, and that just is really interesting and really insightful. And I definitely really enjoyed the addition of Patton to this story, whereas we only really have Syl in the first one, and I thought that she was really wonderful, but the addition of Patton makes it just even more exciting and fun. And the way that everything kind of comes together with the spren and their masters and the main characters is just really, really fun. And I really, really cannot wait to see sort of more about them. I feel like we got to see a lot more of their abilities and their powers and their ideals, and we kind of learn a little bit more about their past as well, which is one thing that we really don't know about because the people in the world don't really know about. Another thing that I would definitely mention is that this series really does echo the Mistborn series in some ways. So if you did enjoy Mistborn, or if you have enjoyed any of his other books by Brandon Sanderson, you should really check this out, because it is wonderful and it is definitely the pinnacle of everything he's written so far. And I was a little bit worried when I first started the series, thinking maybe he wouldn't be able to maintain that really high standard that I've come to know and love from Brandon Sanderson. But he has been able to do that. It's been perfect. I've really enjoyed this book, and I really enjoyed the first one, and I'm sure now that I will absolutely love all of the others in the series when they come out, because it's just amazing, and the world that he is creating is so believable, even though it's fantastical and magical and just full of war and all sorts of things. So it's just such a good world though. It's so fun, and there's so many really awesome powers and ideals and religious stuff that is, it's all interwoven, and it's beautiful, and I just cannot even rave enough about this book. I don't even know. So yeah, you should go and buy this. If you haven't started this series, what are you doing? Please buy this book if you love fantasy, because you will love it, I'm sure. One of the things I would say that was a slight detraction, perhaps, is that because it is such a massive book and because it is based across the entire world of Roshar, there is a lot of stuff. There are a lot of times where you feel a little bit confused about who is where and why this is happening there. But as I say, instead of in the Wheel of Time where everything kind of sprawls out and then has to be dragged back in at the end, this is very much kind of all wrapped up in one book. Like, the stuff that we learn in the first book has all probably been wrapped up in this one by now, the majority of it anyway. And then the stuff that we've learned in this book since book 1 will probably be wrapped up in book 3, and so on, because it's not really dragged out as much as the Wheel of Time or other epic fantasy series have been, perhaps. And I really enjoy that because it feels like each book has their own plot line, even though they're all set in the same world and they all follow one another. So that's really interesting and really exciting, and just really made me happy when I read that, because yeah, I don't like it when things are dragged on and on throughout books. Another thing that I would like to mention, because some people have asked me, is it difficult to understand who is who in a book like this because there are so many characters spread out across a whole world? I would say no. I would say if you have read The Wheel of Time, which I know a lot of people compare this to The Wheel of Time because The Wheel of Time was one of Sanderson's influences, and obviously he finished off the series with Jordan, but no, I would say it's not easy to get confused over the characters. I found it really easy to tell them apart because not only do their names sound very different, they're all very different names, they don't have the same letters and things like that, but actually they all have their own personality and their own voice, and you can definitely tell when Shallan is speaking compared to Kaladin, compared to Patton, compared to Syl, compared to some of the other characters as well. So they're all individual, they're all very recognisable, and they've all got their own sort of traits that they say or do that makes them recognisable. So I really, really didn't have an issue whatsoever with any of the character names or remembering who was who. On the whole, guys, I would highly, highly recommend this series. I cannot speak more highly of it. I gave it 5 stars and I loved it, and I will definitely be picking up the next book in the series as soon as it comes out, because I am so excited, having read this now, that I cannot even wait. I hope it comes out soon, please. I'm just so excited for this series. I'm so in love with it. I cannot rave more highly about this series. I think it is a masterwork of fantasy fiction and you just need to read it. So let me know down below if you have any comments about this book, if you've read it, if you liked it, if you didn't. Definitely put spoiler at the top of your comment if you are including spoilers so that no one gets spoiled. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope that you enjoyed this review, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.